So we went a little bit further, and after cultivating a non-reactive relationship, then we moved mindfulness into a higher gear. And what we did was we worked with what's referred to as mindfulness of sense faculties. And that's huge. This is really where the good work starts. The deep work starts. What the deep work looks like is you open your eyes, and all that we need to do is, what we're doing here is disputing your stories. Disputing what goes on in your cranium. And right now, I don't mind being the chief executive disputer, the challenger. In fact, I love that job. Doesn't pay well, but I'll take it. Right? But the object is to get me out of the way until what this practice is training you to become that disputer, that challenger. That's the goal, is to get me out of the way. Fair enough? This job sucks because it's always, what? Redundant. Right. So what do we mean by that, by opening your eyes? Well, go ahead and just focus your attention. In fact, this is probably, I don't know what this thing is. Anybody know what this thing is?
The red thing?
This red thing. Sort of like throwback to the 60s. What is it?
It's a symbol.
Well, hey, wait a second. Now, you see what we're doing right now? I want you to report only what your eyes see for a second. What do your eyes see? Without the story, please. You know, your eyes can't see red. Your eyes don't have that capacity. So,
Vibration waves.
it was simply, if you were going to be a cognitive optometrist, you'd simply report that the eye, all it does is refract wavelength, if you were a cognitive optometrist. But that's not what we're training in. Instead, we'd like you to be as radically as simple as possible and just simply to report something. And that is, just report on the activity of the eye, which is called seeing. Fair enough? So can you look up here and go, what am I looking at? And you just go like this. Here's what you report internally. And it's very simple. Seeing. And that's it. Now, what else might you come up with after seeing red? What else?
Feng shui.
Feng shui. Okay. See, there's what's happening, which is seeing, and then there's our story about what's happening. You get that? So feng shui isn't what's happening over here. And red isn't what's happening over here either. What's happening over here? Actually, but now I'm going to ask you about the object itself. We get the activity as seeing. But what is the object? The object of reflection. Now that's going to go back to story. What's going on over here? Because it takes your brain to recognize round. The eye doesn't see round. Is that fair? So this is what I mean by challenging and disputing. It's a little unnerving at first, but you take over my role. So what's going on over here? What is actually the object? Anybody? That's still going to be... It's just there. Okay. How about this? Nobody knows. You cool with that? It's unknown what's over here. Now, and there are many traditions we could call it emptiness, or all kinds. There's no need for that. There's no need for any of that. Nobody knows what's over here. Not you, not me. Nobody knows what's over here. Nobody. Including whom? Anybody. Nobody knows what's going on over there. Now, you may wonder, what is the purpose of something like that? It's like, God, that's just kind of trippy. In fact, it should create a little bit of what's referred to as cognitive dissonance right now. Does it? Because your story wants to go, because you're so accustomed to habits, to label, to confuse what's actually taking place in your brain for what's going on over there. That's cognitive dissonance. And that's a good, if you have that feeling of unease right now, like, I don't know, it's a little trippy. Kind of reminds me of back in the 60s, right? Some of the things I used to do. It's actually, that's a good sign that you have some cognitive dissonance. Because there's all the temptation, the habituation to do what? What do you want to do? You just say, that's red, that's round, that's feng shui, you really want to say that. But the problem is that with a non-reactive base of attention that you've already cultivated, that doesn't go. That doesn't suit. I'm not, no questions yet, Lisa. We'll get to you later. All right? So here's the idea, is that there's what's happening, and I'll call what's happening over here, I'll call this perfect. But what I mean by perfect is, whatever this is, all the causes and conditions are there for this to manifest. What is it? I don't know. But it's there. And we'll call that the present moment experience. This is what's present. And then there are stories about what's present. How's that? This is the present moment experience. And then we have stories about that present moment experience. Is that clear? But your stories aren't what this thing is. Stories are stories. Everyone got it? Okay. Same thing with hearing. Same thing with smelling. Same thing with tasting. And most importantly, for most of you, same is true with sensing. Now, I'm not saying feeling. Feeling belongs to the classification called emotions. This is simply any type of neuron or synaptic flash. That's called sensing. So I simply want you to report at the end of the 15 to 20 minutes of cultivating a relaxation response, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, sensing. And that's it. That's easy enough, no? Creates a little cognitive dissonance. Fair enough? All right. Don't forget the overall purpose, which is what? Not to make you feel weird. What's the overall purpose? To reduce stress and finally remove all suffering. Our claim is that this is how it's done. And it doesn't require a lot of genius. It just requires paying attention to what's going on and using whatever branch of science you'd like to assist. Whether you want to go quantum mechanics or cognitive optometry, I don't mind. It'll all point to the same thing. So if you want to read Gary Zukav and Christoph Capra, if you want to go back and read all those books and talk about, God, quantum mechanics is saying the same thing, that's fine. If you want to go cognitive optometry, I don't mind. But you don't need to go into detail like that if you don't want to. If that's just too highbrow, stick with what ancient Indian rice farmers knew. Seeing. That's enough. Okay? The other stuff may be interesting. What to believe, and that's all very interesting, perhaps, for many of you. But what's even more interesting is the simplicity of it. And I'd really encourage you to, if you would like to have more complicated understandings, that's fine, but at least stick with the radical simplicity of what we're doing right now. And this is radically simple, no? You simply report what the sense faculties do. Can't get much easier than that. No? You simply have one question, and it always is the same question. What is that question? Whenever you look at phenomena, what is this? And the great thing is you just ask that question, but you don't ever give it an answer. So it's a really simple thing to do. You just ask yourself, ready? What is this? And then you plug in, is it seeing? And the answer is what? Hold on, is this feng shui? Can you see it? Nope. Can you hear it? Nope. Can you smell it? Anybody smell it? You actually have to go through the experience. It's not enough to intellectually just click it off. You can't taste it, and you can't sense it. You can't sense the feng shui. So there's only one remaining box. What box is that? Stories. Thinking. You got that? We're driving for you to put everything into that particular category called story. That's the aim. Because that particular thing is what will help you to remove stress and suffering. In other words, as long as you continue to believe what you see is out there independent of your mind, or hear, or smell, or taste, you're going to continue to suffer. No way around it. When you mistake reality, in other words, first of all, that is suffering. And then nothing else is going to come from that except more suffering. How's that? That's very clean, very orderly. Don't mistake reality. Largely, suffering is about what I would refer to as a category error. You think you see things. You think you hear things, smell things, taste things, sense things that aren't actually present.